Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolSomething.com, mana traders, as well as Twitch subs and Patreon supporters just like you. My name is Evan Irwin, and get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Power Dragon.
What's up, everybody? And we're back with an actual normal episode today, which we haven't done in a minute.
For once in our lives.
We had preview streams last week. We had holidays and things. Ruben Bressler, everybody.
Hey, everybody, I'm here, and I have also upgraded my headphones to ones I've stolen from my roommate.
Oh, goodness. Guess who did not update the title because it's
Oh,
been
no!
a minute. It's okay.
Dang.
Aetherdrift updates. Yep, that's a whole thing. We're going to talk a little bit about Pioneer Masters out and about, and that's cool. And we'll just go with the and much more there, so we can just go ahead and get that finished. We'll update that super cool title for you guys so you know that we're out of the pre-show and we're into the real stuff.
You do that on Twitch or the YouTube?
I did
both?
I did it on both, buddy. We are professional here.
Dang.
Now, if you missed our pre-show, patrons get access to all that stuff right after the show. We kick it off with our first pick and the promo code reminder. Please visit CoolStuffInc.com. Use the promo code MagicMics to save 5% off anything in the store. Single sale supplies, whatever you want. Save 5% off by using the promo code MagicMics. And support your favorite streamer on Twitch with your suggestions in the show to see who we raid tonight. That's thanks to CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock. Thanks for sponsoring the show. Talk here first. Our first pick, I want to get started here just quickly here. A bit of stuff about the show here. So we've had some amazing, wonderful patrons for years, some for many, many years. And we appreciate each and every one of them. And one of the things we do at the end of every year, or I guess the beginning of some years, is the Magic MICSIES. It is our, award show we've been hanging on for quite a bit here. And one of the ideas that came out, I think it was Mr. Scott Campbell from MTG Pack Foils had mentioned it, was, hey, can you get the patrons involved into the MICSIES? Let's have it be a reward because I want to find cool things for patrons because you guys help make this exist. So next week, I'm hoping to debut the Google form for patrons only, patreon.com/magicmics. Even $1 or more will get you in there, but you will have a voice and you will have a vote as to which one wins each category. And that should ideally go up next week. And we'll talk about more then, obviously, but we appreciate you.
What a good idea.
Yeah, that was a great idea.
What a smart thing. We struggle with how to support our patrons when they support us. It's been a minute since we figured out something new that is worth our time to program and worth your money to give away. The pre-show content has evolved. The other show types have evolved. Even when we used to do the set reviews and all of that kind of, what do we give to the patrons?
Right.
What a great idea. This is something that allows you guys to physically and realistically be a part of the show, let your voice be heard, and be a part of effectively the academy as it pertains to the awards.
Absolutely.
It's really exciting.
Yeah. So I want to get you guys involved. Go to patreon.com/magicmics. Support the show. Help us exist. We do appreciate it. Let's go ahead and get started with our first pick. And that is, they had a whole broadcast about Aetherdrift. Aetherdrift is on its way. Honestly, Innistrad Remaster shows up first, but we're going there. It's fine. Aetherdrift showed up. The Planeswalker's Guide to Aetherdrift showed up, which is really rad. It's just all about racing, and there's going to be minor leagues and major leagues or championship leagues and stuff. I've saw things like a first place promo or something, all sorts of weird, crazy stuff. And so the Gear Grand Prix is happening, and it's for the what is it? The Omen Path? Not the Omen Path. The One Spark or something.
Something like that.
The Aetherspark.
Aetherspark, the new Planeswalker equipment.
The Planeswalker equipment, yes.
You know how hard it's going to be to not call that the Allspark?
I know.
I mean, really, I'm going to trip up somewhere along the way.
Or Guilty Spark for those Halo fans out there.
So yeah, I'm going to bring it up here on the screen so we can take a look at it if you are watching us. But yeah, it says, look, there's going to be 10 racing teams across the multiverse and the most high stakes competition that Magic has ever seen. I feel better already about sort of the look, the feel, the theming of what's happening in Aetherdrift than I had about Murders at Karlov Manor.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm getting way better early vibes.
Sure. Yeah, okay. But
again, it comes back to my argument on Karlov Manor is you tiptoed around everything instead of just full committing to what it needed to be.
Yeah. I'm
right?
also
This
over
is all
this.
in.
I'm
Right.
also over the Karloff Manor slander.
Yeah, that's
I'm,
fair.
I love. Listen,
Look,
I
something had to be
agree
the
that
worst,
they didn't
Chris.
go hard enough.
Something had to be the
Exactly.
worst. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Either way, it is interesting. One of the big things here is that they renamed the entire plane.
Yes.
It is now Avishkar instead of Kaladesh. Now, no, this isn't going to
So
retcon.
pronunciation correction. Avishkar.
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, is it? I thought it was
Yes.
Avishkar.
They put the emphasis on the first syllable.
Avishkar. Got
The
it.
emphasis is on the first syllable, is what he's
Right.
saying.
You got it. So Avishkar is here, and Avishkar is not going to rewrite Kaladesh. They're not going to go back and rename that set, Avishkar.
Yeah.
They're not going to do Avishkar
Remastered,
stuff like that. They're just
Right.
going to keep that back there. Basically, there's new management on the plane, and the new management has changed the name of it. And the new
Right.
management is Wizards of the Coast, but who cares? Point is, it could, like, the original Kaladesh could be used somewhat in a negative slur type way, and no one wants that. And it had to do with the foreign language and so on. So they're like, cool, here's a different name. It's great. The community absolutely loves it. The people who are of that descent are like, this is great. All this.
But here's the thing too, like
touchstones are
canonically it makes sense, right? There was a big revolution, things happened.
there. Mhm.
The new people are like, hey, we should start over and rename the place.
Sure.
Right. And we've seen that happen in real life.
Sure.
So like, I mean, revolutions happen. Hell, they didn't even have full revolutions, and we renamed Russia. We don't call it USSR anymore, right? Like
Right.
It's true.
it's just Russia. Right. Like,
Yeah.
So like things happen. Like it's fine.
Yeah, and they released a bunch of artwork, which is really cool. We have no idea what these do next. I just can only imagine how far we're going to go in terms of things.
Dude, it was a
personally-
huge info drop though, man. There was a lot in there.
It was a lot of like a lore stuff. I think was
Mhm.
a lot of it. A big bunch of like, there's the teams, and here's how the Grand Prix works, and there's these different circuits and things. Like right there, looks like some really cool ornithopter, which I think is lovely. I can't wait to see what they do. Honestly, I think it's going to be super sweet and exciting, and the fact that they have literally all the events, like, what does that mean, right? What does an exhibition event mean on a Magic card? Question mark.
Right.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, and there's the Aether Spark right there, right? The wondrous artifact, and they're just like, it's going to be cool because
It is very cool.
It is very rad. Equipment Planeswalker is a hell of a bunch of words on the Magic.
Legendary artifact equipment planeswalker, or legendary artifact planeswalker equipment is a heck of a type line.
Goodness gracious. But yeah, they also let's bring back a bunch of different planes, like Amonkhet having like their champions that they get to put in the race, right? Maybe we're going to see some of those old mechanics come back. I don't know. It looks like one of the commander decks is going to be based on energy, and
Look,
man, they should not bring energy into standard. But Wizards is going to Wizard, and we've seen it before, where they just can't keep their hand out of the cookie jar. Out of the energy cookie jar. They're like, no, we can. Energy is the bad boyfriend. Wizards is
if
like,
I didn't have expensive Sennheiser headphones, I would
fix
throw them
him.
right
No,
now.
you can't. No, you can't.
Aether. It's called Aetherdrift. You have to have Aether in the set, and they've already bitten off more than they can chew. Maybe they'll just make bad energy cards.
Oh man, and is that what we want either? Right? Do we want
Exactly.
underpowered crappy?
Exactly.
Right?
Maybe they'll just, what they could do? They could print bad Magic cards like Lay of the Land, and then just put an energy attached to it. Oh wait, that got banned the last time.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Powerful.
That's how they tried. And you're like, look, you know what the top 10 most played cards of Modern is? It's the red-white energy deck.
It's the energy.
And here's the
happening
brutal
right
part.
now.
As a standard player, you're gonna get stuck with that for 3 years.
Oh yeah, seriously.
You know what I mean? Like that's the other side to all of it.
Right. And it's, look, energy as a concept, right? Give us another resource. I love the idea. But I think we've seen on various realms, on whether it's standard or whether it's Modern Horizons, it is a mechanic that is almost impossible to correctly balance. The only way I feel you
let's
can
not go
balance it,
too deep. Let's not go too deep on this because we aren't
Sure.
sure.
This is
it's-
We'll have time in the future when
and
they
we'll
preview
certainly
cards.
be able to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff. Yeah. So either way, we'll see. There's some energy stuff. Maybe it's only commander decks. I honestly God hope so. Which is fine. But look, man, we're talking about like that. There's a shark strapped to a car. All right.
Yes, nice, great,
And the speed demons, like,
incredible.
bruh, that's awesome. I love that. The Goblin Rocketeers.
Very likely the Demir based on the colors that they're they're riding with there.
Oh yeah,
Speed
there you go.
Speed Demon is a hell of a thing.
Yeah, no, right. Jeff the baby land shark. He
Yeah.
he sprouted right up. But the idea again, I love the idea of the different teams. I think it's cool. I still
the
love
other
the
thing
checkered
that-
flag set icon is also rad.
Agreed. I also love, and this is something that I really enjoyed when it first came about, was that it is a race that does not only require mechanical racers.
Mhm.
There are also mounts. There are also natural phenomenon. There's also magical BS happening. Like, however you get there fast is how you can get
Oh,
there,
didn't
which
one of
I
them
love.
depict it as having a chariot?
Yeah.
Like
There was a
so it's like,
chariot.
whatever.
There was a beastie. There was a car. There was a ghost. It's awesome. This is like wacky racers.
Right. And look, one of my
It's like the Great Space Race, the cartoon they used to have
Yep.
from Hanna-Barbera or whatever. That's sort of what it reminds me
like
of.
Crazy Race or something. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Wacky Race.
I just said it. It was wacky racers.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, and look, we've got we have the picture here of the Akira slide. Like we've got the Akira
Yes.
slide, and I'm so
Hell
happy
yeah.
it's here. You needed it. If there's race iconography image, like the Akira slide is in a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen things now, and by God, we needed Chandra in this on the motorbike, looking awesome. I think that's great.
Akira slide was in Nope.
Yeah, it was in Nope. I mean, it was
great.
a variety of things. But yeah, Chandra is also. I wonder if Chandra is in the set. You say, and she's just
Sure.
all
Yep.
over everything, everywhere. Like, okay,
Sure.
cool, we get it. Thanks. But yeah, we're gonna have the standard use in terms of that 2 commander decks though is kind of pulling back a little bit, considering we usually get 4. So there's that.
Okay.
But I'm okay with that. I think that's rad. The finish line bundle, right? And includes a first place box topper. What does that mean? Question mark.
No clue.
I don't know. But I
Sort of
love
like
that.
maybe like a checkered flag finish.
Well, I think one of the coolest things here, this is a very minor adjustment, but check out the pre-release pack. The pre-release promo card is in a sealed booster.
Yeah.
It is not clear. It is in a sealed booster. And by that I mean they will now sell you pre-release promo card packs because they're now sealed and unknown.
Yeah, that's cool.
Also, yeah, and that's a thing that you can also trade for, and sell yourself individually versus saying like, oh, I got a crappy promo card. You don't know what's in there. And if there's a killer, Sheldred-esque rare, that could be that card, right? That's the magic of a sealed pack. So I think that's actually a really great upgrade, and it's been a long time coming.
I'm fine with that. And it's just one more thing to open that's fun and interesting. So like doesn't hurt anything.
Yeah, absolutely. You're still getting the promo pack. You're still getting the promo card, right? And it's still going to be just as sweet as it's always going to be. It's just now you get that like, oh, snap, open moment versus like, I turned it around and there it was, right?
Yeah.
It's just a different feel, right?
Yep.
And I'm cool with that. But yeah, the previews start mid next month, as you do. Wizards takes the last couple weeks off and whatnot. And until then, we'll get to wonder about what Aetherdrift consists of. And I hope I get to modify my vehicles. That's the only thing I want to do. I want to give them spoilers.
Yep.
Make them.
Oh, that should definitely be a thing. Just like
right.
Put a NOS cannon on it.
yeah, like an
get
aura
a
you can only put on artifacts or something.
supercharge.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Make
Again,
wheels,
by the way,
something.
again, Wizards, I have to say it again. And I know this won't happen, but no official previews. No official previews for Aetherdrift. Only spoilers.
That's still great. That's still a great line, and I love it. And I'm over on here to gather the Townsfolk, where we talk about community issues thanks to our sponsor, Mana Traders, the best tool to enhance your Magic Online experience. Use the code MagicMikes_IQJ. That's MagicMikes_IQJ for 10% off your next subscription with Mana Traders. Tell them we sent you. We appreciate them. They're great. Moving on a bit here, we've had some time with Pioneer Masters. And I've had a little bit of time with Pioneer Masters, particularly more time playing it in Limited and also playing it in Limited with just a more competitive player pool, I guess is the way to put it. And what I have basically found is that red-white is the best, color pairing that I've found so far, because so much of this format, is highly charged but also pretty clunky. You know what I mean? Like it's a big chunk and a 4-drop and a 5-drop and a 6-drop. And if you're over there with like 1-drop, 2-drop, whatever pump spell, remove that. The imposing sovereign making all their creatures come into play tap is gigantic at uncommon. So like there's lots of tools there. And I've also played the mirror and they got a few rares and I didn't. And that was the end of that. And so like I found red white to be extremely strong. Other colors can be good. Obviously, any color combination, you get enough bombs or whatever. But just, thoughts on the format so far is it is way faster than it kind of needs to be because of that errant, like red white, on the graph, the red white's over here in the outlier field.
Yeah, I think also one of the things that I've taken away from, just recently looking online is I assume there was going to be more play, more people interested, whatever in it because like, oh, we finally have Pioneer. And it hasn't quite been that yet. So I'm wondering if it's a combination of the holidays or maybe there just hasn't been enough hype around Pioneer recently or whatever. So I'm kind of gonna still keep an eye on it, but kind of analyze it again once we get to January and see sort of how people feel about it.
Yeah. I like the discussion around Pioneer Masters more than I liked playing it.
Hmm.
It was a fine format. It was the limited format. I will say I didn't do any constructed. I rarely do constructed, if ever, during the preview stream events. I like seeing what the format is about and like trying to play through things. It did. I understood what they were doing. It felt shoehorned. And it didn't translate for me. I appreciate them doing the attempt though.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think this is one of those sets though where it wasn't particularly built for limited.
Right.
Like that wasn't the goal. It was just like we got to have these cards out there, but
Yeah.
we
But we
can
might
play
as
limited
well.
with it. Yeah, but
Exactly. Like the raison d'etre for the set isn't to make a all-star limited environment, but we need to release it in a way that players will collect the
yeah.
cards. So in doing that and in the changing of the commonality and trying to make like coherent themes after 15 years of the last 15 years of Magic cards, they did an amicable job.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's also why we saw a couple of cards just inserted in there that felt a little weird because they're still sort of new. And it's like, well, we need a few things for limited to balance these out. So let's just shove these in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben White's writes on Blue Sky here. I have it up on the screen. Where he talks a little bit about rarity shifts was a major tool that they had to make significant limited adjustments, and that's where you see things that were rare, like Honored Hydra, is suddenly uncommon, and that's
Yeah.
a way high power level all of a sudden that you're getting into your
Yeah.
limited environment, and they kind of shoehorned some themes in, which I thought was kind of rad, and also
Sure.
some cards that when you see them at uncommon, like the what was it, the Heart Piercer Manicore guy or whatever, you're just like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of always like uncommon level power level
Right.
anyway.
sure.
Like Quicken really good
Yeah.
enough to be a rare, you know what I mean? Like just a little silly stuff like that. Um,
Sure.
but yeah, what I found is that when this weird kind of amalgamation of limited environment has created big outliers. And for me, the outlier
Yeah.
I've seen so far is the red white deck, where it's like
Sure.
you got, Honored Hydra and all these super giant fatty green dudes, and I'm just like, and you die.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to happen. Like, you don't always make the right recipe. It's baking. The limited environment is baking. The standard environment is cooking. You can be a lot more artistic. You can do a lot more things like throwing in extra ingredients and messing around with heat and different things. If you screw with the recipe when you're baking bread, you are going to end up with nothing in particular. You're going to throw it in the garbage if you're off by 5 degrees. So I am very apologetic, and I understand that what they were trying to do. I think that they succeeded. Like it
Yeah.
made what they wanted to do. It isn't horrendously broken.
No, it's
Something
not.
does have to be the best, like you always like to say.
Sure.
And if the recipe's a little off and red white's a little too good, I'm okay with it being in a master's set anyway.
But I think to your point, standard's still really good and people are still exploring foundations right now too.
Yeah.
Right. Like that could be part of it is just timing. Where, foundation, well, I don't know, what was that?
A million
4 weeks
cards?
ago?
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
like it's like a month ago basically with like 400 cards or whatever that was. Like we haven't even really fully explored that yet. And then we have Pioneer Masters available. So I think there's still some, even from creator
For
standpoint,
sure.
people still like carving their lane and figuring stuff out before there's going to be a full dive on Pioneer. But by the time we get past the holidays and whatever, you only have what 6-7 weeks, and then we'll be talking or actually playing Aetherdrift at that point.
Yeah, wild.
Dude, that analogy is incredible, by the way. The baking,
Which one?
the baking and constructed, and you're cooking.
Hey,
That
thanks,
was-
buddy.
That was really strong. Good job. Because I think it almost feels like a chopped scenario in some ways, right? Here are your
Yeah.
ingredients.
Yep.
Figure it out, and you're like, I'll take this, and I'll go to the pantry, and I'll get this net, and I hope it works,
and hope for the best.
and off you go, and you hope you have a good time and a good dish or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's fantastic. And yeah, ultimately, I like limited environments. They're cool. It's fun to find unique versions of them. You know, like I also like to say about Outliers, I generally like outlier limited formats. Like I thought Zendikar was super rad because it was so stupidly fast. It was so stupidly fast. You had to go like, look at this thing. Look how it's different. Look how everything is supercharged on turn 1 through 3. Like that's unique. Moving on here, there was an interesting post here by Gavin Verhey on Blue Sky. And bring it up, y'all. And we talked about it a little bit in Discord. And it says, here's 15 old standard deck names. How many of them do you know? And then they, what was your score and so on. And
now, I can do all of them because I'm a nerd, but I know I'm an outlier. So I'm curious to know what the average score that people had was.
I think I did like 13. And then like people explain what they were. Like I couldn't remember what Project X was at first, and I couldn't remember what Machine Head was at first.
Yeah, those two were. So first of all, Machine Head is like a red-black mid-range deck that won the Pro Tour. The only reason why I remember that is because I played Machine Head for a while and was like, oh, that's one that I have in my head. Project X was like the weird Crypt Champion Essence Warden combo deck.
Sappy Eric's daughter, right?
Sappy Eric's daughter combo deck.
Crypt Champion.
Yeah. That was like, it was not very good, but I remember
that's
that
weird.
One,
I don't think I ever heard it called that. Like, I think I played against it a couple of times.
Right. And then I guess, honestly, and that's part of this.
It was like a Teneb the Harvester, Glittering Wish mid-range kind of bull crap.
Well, that now it sounds like you're talking like Solar Flare, but either way.
Oh, that too.
Yeah. And I played a lot of Solar Flare at the time, which locks it on Hierarch and Angel Despair or something, whatever. The point is, I thought it was really cool. And that's sort of what we're talking about here, which is these are interesting deck names.
Right.
Why don't we do this anymore? And I know because I was there, we were there in like 2013, 2014. There was a definite push to stop with the stupid names. Like just can we just, can we just call this, red green aggro or black blue control or whatever, right? And it doesn't need to be like Canadian threshold, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. And then there's like American threshold or something, and then it becomes weird. And while I enjoy these types of naming things, I also know that it's going to get vulgar if you let them, or it's going to get too silly. That's not going to, it's going to be deck McDeck face or whatever. And you're not going to get.
So
like,
I think that there is.
Names.
I think that if we're looking at this list, I think that there is a big difference between something like Caw Blade, that is Squadron Hawk, Caw, Sword of Feast and Famine Blade. I get it. That one makes sense, right? Let's see here. Even something like Pickles, which is Brine Elemental.
Right.
That's Pickles. I get it. There's brine in the name.
Right.
And it's green blue. There's also Sea Stompy, uses Sea Drake, and it's a Stompy deck. Like there's a big difference between that and Quicken Toast, which is named after the coffee shop that Patrick Chapin and his
RIW buddies.
The French guy.
Oh,
it was like Wafo Tapa and the French testing.
Okay.
Wow.
And the blonde, skinny guy that was a pro that helped invent Quicken Toast. Anyway, they were testing for like events, and they would always go to this corner coffee shop, and that's why it's called Quicken Toast. The same with Boat Brew. Boat Brew was a red-white mid-range deck that was developed on the Magic Cruise.
It's true.
Which is why it's called Boat Brew. So French Frights is French Rights. That one is like in the middle because that one's like taking a name and going in a different direction. Right. Some of these are acceptable, but like Napster, there's no world where anyone is going to guess what Napster is.
Oh, dude, don't forget, we still had a bunch of like Fruity Pebbles that eventually had like
Fruity
Cocoa Pebbles and like.
So the Pebbles decks make sense because they're all 0 cost artifact and creature combo decks. That's the
Yeah,
whole
but you're
point
not going to
of-
know
Do they
that
make
from the
sense?
name,
Do
though.
they
You're
make
not going to know
sense?
that.
But then you go off on the rest of the breakfast foods, and no one's ever going to get full English breakfast. No one is ever going to understand some of these deck names. So, but there's also a difference between that. And again, I was on the front lines of this war, so I'm going to tell war stories. There's a difference between taking names that make no sense and making them somewhat digestible, and then removing all of the flavor from them until they become meaningless garbage. Like there was an era in there where we got rid of all the clever deck names, and then everything was 4-color mid-range. Every
Yeah,
deck
yeah.
was 4-color mid-range. And
That
it's
was
like, all
standard
right,
there for a
well,
while.
what are we doing when we aren't actually naming our decks the clever things that kind of tell you what the deck does?
I mean,
Because Eminent Domain was a very distinct deck from the Timur ramp deck of the age. Eminent Domain had a very specific meaning. It was a red, green, blue deck that had ramp elements, but it was much different than the Timur ramp deck. So, like, what are we doing when we're removing
But I think it's also the how we were consuming information at the time, right? Like if somebody came up with a really sweet deck and they named it, that's the first time we've seen that combination of cards,
Mhm.
right? Like so they're the ones who get to name it. We were
Oh,
only
Lord.
using like 4 different sites to get our deck
Right.
names
Hold
or
on.
articles, whatever, right?
That's exactly one of the problems that happened with this type of list of deck names is somebody did it first. Somebody has dude bro played this guy in his shop and he named it so and so, and now you're trying to name it such and such, and they did it before you did, and I came up with that deck and you didn't.
Right.
No, man. Just like you can't copyright game mechanics, you cannot copyright deck lists.
Right.
Like that's
Oh, I've
another
definitely
part of the
played
problem
in an
with this.
event and somebody across the table is like, "Oh, you're playing, whatever deck name." And I was like,
I
yeah,
have no idea
guess.
what you're talking
like,
about.
yeah. I'm like, yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, man. Cocoa Pebbles, fruit punch. You got it.
Yeah,
Right,
like,
exactly.
one, I guess. I don't care.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever had somebody tell me, "Oh, you're playing XYZ name," and then I didn't know what the name was. But I've definitely am on. I've heard deck names, and then the first time I heard the deck name, I was just like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I don't
Yeah.
understand what the reference is, or I've been playing against this deck for 2-3 weeks during a PTQ season, and then suddenly someone says that it's a name, and I'm like, I've never heard it referred to as that.
And again, that's kind of the other thing too, right? In the world of content creation, social media, whatever. Like if I were to put up a video and just said, okay, this is the best Project X build possible or whatever, and people are just like, what the hell does that mean, right?
Right.
But they might actually be looking for something of a certain color combination or a certain strategy or whatever.
Right.
And you kind of got to go with that because it's easier for new people to understand.
I
right?
mean, when you bring that up, I can honestly see somebody saying, well, I'm playing Power Dragon Aggro, I'm playing Ruben Bressler Control, right?
Sure.
Because you want to put your brand out there to be part of your name, blah, 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 blah. Down that rabbit hole we go. Like, the fact that we've lived with both those systems, A, you had silly names, B, we don't have silly names. It's better without the silly names. As much as I like them, I enjoy flavor.
Sure.
I like fun things, but a lot of people just ruin them it's so insular. It's so inside baseball.
Every once in a while, some of them stick. Like in Standard right now, there's a deck like Simic Cookies that's going around. Like,
fair.
It's kind of known the thing that people who play go, oh yeah, we all know what this is. But enough people online have played it and adopted, and people know what it is.
It also helps to have some amount of description so that, because Simic Cookies is going to tell you about the 2024 Simic deck, as opposed to Simic Food Combo, which could be about any number of eras of food.
That's very true.
So like there's some amount of usefulness for having a unique deck name. Mono Black Control doesn't tell you the era.
Yeah.
And if you're wondering what our conversations were in 2013, we just had it.
Yeah.
This is all the same stuff. We were just like, but this is what we're losing. And we're like, yes, but this is what we're gaining.
Yeah.
And there is a trade-off.
I think that to look at this list, let's look at this list and like one by one, we'll say which ones are good ones and which ones are bad ones.
Sure. I think we spent enough time on this.
No, I don't. I'm going to do,
God.
give me 2 seconds.
All right. 2 seconds.
Sea Stompy's a good one.
Yes.
Okay. What's the worst one? Then what's the worst one?
The worst one is Solar Flare.
Solar Flare's
Yeah, like, 'cause if you don't
Project
know
X.
exactly
I think
what
is
the
the
dex
worst. Or
is.
Napster.
Project X.
Napster might
Napster's
be
pretty
the worst.
bad.
Yeah, because there's no
Uh,
indicator. Like
yeah.
Napster just tells you that, well, the era that it was named.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Boat,
like, that's
Boat
about
Brew is
it.
pretty bad.
Brew is just like whatever.
Fungus Fire is good.
Is it?
I think so. Fungus Fire is fine. Pickles
Frights
is fine.
Pretty bad too.
Frights is pretty bad. French Rights is good. Frights is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Let's
All right.
move
That's
on.
enough of that.
Let's move on here. To some Going Infinite. When we talk about things that might happen, might not happen. This came across the wire during our recent, I guess, hiatus, as you would describe it. On Wargamer, which says MTG is testing a standalone Commander video game. Hasbro reveals. Chris Cox teased a new Magic the Gathering game based on Commander and spoke about boosting the collectability of Arena. And I kind of think that that's a little insane, quite frankly. To try to create a different client, which sort of infers a different collection than you would have with Arena. And then the other half of me goes, did they really, 6 years ago at this point, say we're going to make, like, the ultimate Magic client, right? It's all Magic, end to end, new technology. It's going to look and work great. And no one said anything about multiplayer. Like, no one coded anything multiplayer into it. Is kind of amazing.
Man, I have several thoughts on this. Like, the first is we don't know the full context of the conversation in the interview. So, because they're always testing stuff, right? Like, he could have just mentioned, like, oh yeah, we have a platform we're testing Arena on or whatever in-house or whatever, or Commander on in-house. And then somebody interpreted that as like, oh, they're working on a whole separate thing for Commander, right? Like, which they might be, but I could see how that could be taken out of context very easily, depending on what it is. The other issue is too, I think it would just still be better that, because I've told people before, I think honestly, if we get Commander and Arena, it will be Arena version 2, and you just transport everything over to the new Arena. I think is how it probably ultimately happens, because Commander doesn't seem like it will work in the current interface, UI, whatever, of Arena. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's a new client, but the idea to want to purposely keep them separate doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, just shove everybody to the same platform, whatever it happens to be, whatever version it is, whatever, put everybody in the same place. Because it also seems weird to be like, yeah, we want to increase the collectability and playability, whatever Arena, but we're also going to make this other thing so people can play Commander. Like, those don't feel like they fall in the same mindset. So it feels like something's lost in translation there between the interviewer, what Chris Cox said, like something that doesn't feel right there.
And that's honestly kind of standard usuals when you try to look at the tea leaves of an investor call or whatever. And he said this one thing, and he wants to bring, a multiplayer to Arena. He wants to bring Commander to, the digital format or whatever. And I also think it's really cool. Just recently, Magic Online is bringing like 50 plus new cards to Commander that had never been there before, like from Commander decks in the past, which I think is absolutely brilliant. But if for me, I can only imagine, like, goal number one at this point is to get multiplayer in Arena. I don't know if that needs a brand new client. Honestly, I just think it needs like a client with a whole separate wing that does
sure, that's fine too. Yeah,
right,
that's
like
fine. When you click to play Commander, it just opens up a different UI or whatever, right? Like, that's fine.
Exactly, because you already got the cards in there. That's the most important thing. They're already coded. The engine works, and this is why Magic Online is going to look like Magic Online until they turn those servers off. Restarting from scratch doesn't work. Feel free to look up the history of Netscape if you want to learn how that really works in a hellish way. But don't rewrite it from scratch. The only reason it worked for Arena is because the Microsoft guy went and, I guess, hired a bajillion programmers and people to make
let's
it
be honest. The old thing was severely outdated. So it wasn't hard to get people on board to play Arena, right?
True. And yet,
I'm
Magic
a big fan
Online's still there.
Put as many players as you can in one area, right? That means when Commander players get tired of playing Commander, there's a chance they'll want to play some Standard or Draft or whatever, right? And vice versa. Like, somebody's playing on there and their friends play Commander, but they're a Pioneer player. It's like, you know what? I'll build a Commander deck and play with my friends who want to hop on Arena and play Commander. So, like, it makes more sense to put as many players in one place as possible than have a third platform for people who want to try to play Magic. That just seems weird.
It seems super weird. And if anything, I would absolutely love to play Commander I don't have the Magic Online collection for it. Magic Online obviously is a different kind of very
Sure.
sort of way to play Magic anyway. I would certainly love for my arena collection to work that way because a lot of the cool things that are in a multiplayer format, or a lot of the cards that are like, super powerful in Brawl or whatever are not that powerful in multiplayer. Planeswalkers are like whatever, and stuff like that it's a different sort of, it's a different recipe if we're going to take Ruben's analogies there. It's a different way to make something happen. And I like Brawl, but I would love an actual 3-player, 4-player game to
Yeah,
see
count me in.
what happens. I think that would be brilliant. And I hope to God they can make it work. Lord knows they got some smart people on it.
Be a
Sure.
big upgrade for content creators. I'll tell you that.
For sure.
Oh, can you imagine? Unbelievable. Moving on here to splash damage, stuff that's not quite Magic, but it's close enough. League of Legends, well, Riot had announced Project K, a physical TCG based version of the League of Legends IP. It's not Legends of Runeterra, though I believe they are reusing art from Legends of Runeterra, which I don't blame them. It's fine. World of Warcraft TCG did the same thing. But, this is the idea that you can have cards that, you're going to have like leaders or whatever, and there's going to be a whole variety of attacks and things that are similar to the games and whatnot. I believe Brian Kibler had a little bit of his hand in it and helping out with some consulting and whatnot. And it is from Magic developers originally. So I expect it to do pretty well, honestly.
I love and hate so much about this. Well, first, I'm assuming the cards we saw are not final versions because some of them didn't. Like, the backs look great, the fronts not so much.
Yeah.
So they were very uninspired, so I'm sure they're still working on that. And the fact that it's called Project K sounds like a working name, so, whatever.
There's no way that's the final name.
But then I found out that it's going to launch in China first. So it'll be early next year. It's going to launch in China. And then following that, they will do a launch in North America and Europe. Which I was like, well, why though? I mean, hell, even in Japan, they are huge on card games. So it would make a big deal like, okay, at least launch there first as the market. So I don't know if this has to do with, I don't know, maybe some 10-cent investment or something or whatever, pushing a certain thing.
Maybe.
There is supposedly some big event in Macau in December that you will be able to demo the game, they said. So there's that if you want to just go check it out. But yeah, very, very weird timing. Not a lot of information. Several people reached out, to my understanding. I also posted on socials and tagged them like, hey, are there any more details? How do we get involved with this? Whatever. And there's kind of nothing. It was more just like, hey, this thing's going to exist. And then that was kind of it. People ran a couple of stories and there was nothing else.
The big takeaway for me that I thought was interesting, beyond it being a card game completely off of the computer being created by Riot, is that it is geared towards casual and geared towards multiplayer. So it's not coming for Magic the Gathering. It's coming for Commander. It's trying to do one thing, which I thought was very interesting and clever.
Yeah, the game director is Dave Guskin, and he worked on Magic for many, many years.
Forever. Yeah.
So he knows sort of what's going on there. And again, that, if anything, just gives more sort of credence and, the idea that this is not just like some weird thing they're into. It's like, no, they probably spent a lot of time making this happen. They definitely want to look after Commander. They want it to be a casual thing. Like, they might have, events and whatnot because there's events and it's going to have a top tier.
No, they have said specifically, even in multiple things I've seen, they're quoted as saying they do want events from the store level to the convention and tournament level up to possibly a worldwide level.
Sure.
Well, they've already got the infrastructure in place to run those events at other game events, which I think is, when you've already got the infrastructure in place, when you're already running a League of Legends convention, you can have a Project K tournament at it.
Right. Okay. All right. So let's let me play
event.
Let me play Riot Games marketer guy because I like marketing things. Marketer guy. What would I do? I'm marketing. First of all, I would give Brian Kibler a whole bunch of money to make Commander at Home for this game. Whatever that BS is. I would then go to Clarion Community College, give him literally everything I could possibly give him in terms of early product, early access, Get him multiple shuffle up and plays with this card game specifically. Get that
Sure.
lined up.
No, I'd do it with probably the top 5 to 10 creators in each of the card game spaces.
Absolutely.
Go find the Yu-Gi-Oh guys, go find the Pokemon guys, go find the Lorcana guys, whatever.
Let's talk numbers, let's talk money, let's talk content, let's talk timelines. Have all of this hit on certain timelines. Get your NDAs out there. Don't let them tell when.
Absolutely.
And let these people's favorite TCG creators for Pokemon, oh my God, they have a League of Legends card game thing, and so on in Magic space, and so on in Yu-Gi-Oh space. Find these places. They do exist, large and small depending, but you can find these people and you can provide them to get that content out there to make it as exciting and fun and interesting, because the people who you are liking this other game, well, if they're having just as much fun with this thing and you like League of Legends, right? Or your friends do, but you don't. Well, but you like card games, but they like League of Legends. You know what I mean? That's how all that stuff works, as well as, of course, having the whole thing with in-store programs and so on. But in terms of the launch online to show people playing the game, having fun with the game, go get those creators, go get them, and pay them to
But the problem is they're not going to even have it available in the West at all.
But when they do,
yeah, exactly. When that time comes,
make sure you execute well. I'm sure they do.
Yeah, I think
the
biggest thing for me is looking at it and saying, okay, until we see the rules and how they decide to go about it, we're not going to really have much to judge it on, right? Because we've seen so many projects where we look and go, oh, well, this has this creator involved, or Richard Garfield worked on this thing, or whatever, and still just a dud. Hell, as much as people tried to sell me on Artifact, I literally looked at Artifact for 30 minutes and I walked away telling people no chance, and they thought I was nuts. I said, doesn't matter the names involved, doesn't matter. It had no chance out of the gate.
People wanted it to work.
I agree. I wanted it to work. I was like, this concept sounds cool. And then I watched it and went, we're not even close.
There was a window of maybe a week, right? There was a week when people realized what was the best or whatever, right? And how those cards shot up crazy in value on the market. And then you had to say, oh God, the marketplace is going to affect this game in this way. And so between the gameplay not being that great and there being clearly a balance problem, and then the market is crazy expensive if you want to be super competitive, and also leaning too hard into being competitive and not just being fun and casual fun, a lot of stuff. So
yeah, the marketplace took away what little bit of chance it had.
it was when you're wait, that card is how much? No, dude,
but just using that as an example, though, it had pretty much the big hitters working on the project that everybody in some ways probably gave it a little bit too much of a free pass, because they're oh yeah, these people are involved, it'll work. And then
how could you hate on a Richard Garfield design, y'all?
Right.
And it's
I'm
not hating, but that don't mean it's a great
it just wasn't it. That's okay. Not everybody goes up and bats 1,000.
That's right. Everybody's got their, Home Alone 3. I could have picked a better example of a bad movie.
Yeah, I was about to say,
dude, that's weird.
But I don't know why that one was on my mind.
But he still has King of Tokyo. He always still has Magic, right? He's got plenty of good games.
To say about Project K, if it does work and the gameplay is solid, I think it has a real chance, just because the IP behind it, the company behind it has obviously money to spend on it. Right. The reach of their brand is high. Hell, so many things going on for them that's positive. So if the gameplay is good, it has a real shot to, if not be in that first tier, which, your Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, definitely can be top end of the second tier, for sure.
For sure. All right.
I am told that Steven Spielberg's worst movie is something called 1941.
Yeah. I've heard
which
that.
I've never heard of.
It's a comedy that's not funny. So
I see.
That's your problem. I think it's John Belushi in it.
Wonderful.
Jim Belushi. Either way, that's the whole thing. Let's move on here let's turn the corner, everyone, to the finisher. And speaking of turning the corner, Aetherdrift is coming and the race is on. I love a good race as much as the next guy. So give me a joke in 3, 2, 1, go, Ruben.
I hope we get some lore about the place where some of these vehicles come from. Maybe a retired former champion past his prime. Maybe a country bumpkin who helps to ground the protagonist. And of course, we need a mono-red protagonist named Lightning who has the keyword ka-chow.
Yeah.
That could work, actually. That could work.
I love it.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, so we aren't just getting mechanical rides, we're also getting animal rides, which is actually pretty sweet. So we're looking forward to all of our favorite mounts from history getting homages here. So you've got Crush and the East Australian Current from Finding Nemo, the weird lizard guy that Obi-Wan rides in episode 3, whatever that thing is.
Mhm.
And of course, the most busted mount in movie history, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah, he had a very shiny nose.
I mean,
He did.
possibly the most overpowered character in all of fiction.
He is OP. He
is pretty
100%
strong. I mean, he
OP.
pulled a whole like worldwide. I mean,
Yeah.
that's something.
Just out of nowhere. Now, look, of course, I want to get the turbo engines, the NOS buttons, and the burnt rubber, but I'm also in on getting a card that cares about family, a mechanic that suddenly becomes the best computer hacker of all time, and of course, a split card of the Fast and the Furious.
That's
Okay.
right. If we don't get the Fast and the Furious, I don't know what we're doing here.
I will be.
You know what they call it though? Because you don't want Brady call it the quick, the angry.
Sure. Great.
Fine.
Of course.
The lawyers won't let you use the real stuff. They
Yep.
give us the watered down. I'm okay with that.
Yep.
And that ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things magic. Thank you, Power Dragon.
Hey, it was good to be back talking to the peoples in a normal setting again.
There you go. Thank you, Ruben.
Hey, we'll see you next week. I'll be in Ohio, in beautiful, sunny, but presumably freezing cold Ohio. Please join us next week. Please join the Patreon, everybody. And you too can be a part of the Magic MICSIES this year.
For the first
and help
time
us.
in what, 9 years?
That's right.
9 years. You have the vote. You can have the power to sway what actually wins the award for the Magic MICSIES 2024. As we move on here to our final slide, I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, Mana Traders, my co-host, Power Dragon, and Ruben Bressler, you guys for watching and listening, and hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us on our exclusive member Discord, live on twitch.tv at Magic Mics, live or taped on our YouTube channel. Don't follow us on Twitter, but do follow us on
don't follow
TikTok
us
at
on
Magic
Twitter.
Mics Cast and on Blue Sky at magicmics.bsky.social. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.